Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome to another video. Yes, today's video is that time of the week again. It's Premier League predictions time. Another round of Premier League fixtures is upon us. Another huge round, another exciting round, another intriguing round of Premier League fixtures coming up this weekend. And this is obviously the place where I go through each and every single Premier League game, talk about it, analyse it, and of course give my predictions on how I think it will end come the final whistle. Before we get into all of that though, we'd like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. And of course for you lot to get involved in the comment section down below, because I'm sure you have a lot of interesting thoughts, comments, opinions, but most of all of course predictions on how you think each and every game will end up this weekend in England's top flight division. So do get involved down there. But without further ado, let's get on with the predictions. We're starting things off with our lunchtime fixture. It comes from Craven Cottage and it sees Fulham take on Manchester United. Both sides with an inconsistent and awkward start to their season so far. Manchester United, I would say, are more in the mud though, with obviously what has happened over the past year and a bit with Erik ten Hag. What has happened, of course, in the January transfer window and what is transpiring at Manchester United right now. Fulham come into this game off the back of a draw last time out against Brighton, which finished 1-1, whilst Man United have had a dreadful week. Not only did they lose to their City rivals in Manchester City in the Manchester Derby last weekend, but they also got knocked out of the Carabao Cup by Newcastle. Erik ten Hag is seemingly on thin ice. There is constant speculation surrounding his future in the dugout at Manchester United. Will this be his final stand? Only time will really tell. As far as what the game goes, look, maybe Manchester United still would be the favourites on paper given the individual players that they have, given the individual moments that they can produce. But Fulham are maybe the better team in terms of cohesion. It hasn't exactly been a great start to the season for Fulham either. Goals have been kind of sporadic and scarce a little bit for them. They haven't really got a consistent enough goal scorer, but they will fancy their chances. They will be at home. They will make the home crowd will make it very hostile for Manchester United. I'm sure it will be a very awkward place for United to go, and you do feel as if Fulham can get the opening goal, that'll be it. That'll be curtains for Manchester United, because they don't tend to normally come back, and they are very weak when they do go a goal down. Very intriguing game. A game that could definitely go any which way, because you do not know which Manchester United side is going to really turn up. Even if they are poor right now, like I say, they do have the individual moments to really pull this game from the jaws of defeat and actually win it. So, interesting game. I'm going to call it down the middle. I'm going to say that this game will end 1-1 come the final whistle. Next up, we're off to Brentford to see the Bees take on the Hammers as Thomas Frank's side lock horns with David Moyes' side. It's Brentford against West Ham. Another intriguing game. A bit of a London derby of sorts as well. Brentford, of course, come into this game off the back of a 2-0 victory over Chelsea last weekend. A somewhat slightly shocking result, I guess you could say, for the Bees, but a brilliant result nonetheless. Whilst West Ham suffered a bit of a shock defeat of their own, losing 1-0 to Everton last Sunday. Interesting game against two teams that have... Brentford normally go through a bit of an up and down period of the season. In some cases, in which they'll pick up a few great results and then they'll pick up a few bad results, and they go for a bit of a yo-yo kind of stage. And that's sort of what we've seen at the beginning of this season. They haven't exactly been the best so far this campaign, or at their best should I say, but at the same time they've picked up a few good results here and there, and last week against Chelsea was definitely one of them. West Ham started off the season pretty well. They fell off a little bit in a couple of results. And then, of course, last weekend was a pretty shocking result against Everton. But at the same time, again, they have the opportunity to turn it around. And, of course, in midweek Carabao Cup action, West Ham did exactly that by knocking out Arsenal from the English League Cup competition. As far as this game goes, look, both teams have the players. It's going to be an interesting, I would imagine, fast-paced, counter-attacking system that both sides are going to try and set up to play. It'll be a very intriguing game, a fast-paced game, a game that could go any which way, but I'm going to call it down the middle again, and I'm going to say that this game will end 2-2 come the final whistle. Next up, we're going to the Etihad Stadium for Manchester City's home game against Bournemouth. Big game this one, but of course it is probably one of the more favourable matches to predict overall. You've got a City side coming into this game off the back of a 3-0 victory over Manchester United, their City rivals, last weekend in the Manchester derby, whilst Bournemouth picked up their first victory of the season with a 2-1 win over Burnley. Both sides coming into this game off the back of wins, but of course, realistically and on paper, there is only one winner. With all due respect to Bournemouth, of course, they can be thorns in the sides of some of the bigger teams in the league, of course, but you would imagine that Manchester City should have no problem in dispatching the Cherries here, getting the 3 points, getting the victory, and of course, aiding that towards catching Tottenham at the top of the table. Therefore, I'm going to go with a 3-0 victory in favour of Pep Guardiola's side. Next up, we're off to Sheffield, and we're at Bramall Lane for Sheffield United's fixture against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Big game this one, as Sheffield United are still the only side in England's top flight division to be without a win so far this campaign. Their latest result was a 5-0 hammering at the hands of Arsenal, of course, whilst Wolves picked up a pretty good point, a pretty hard-fought point in a 2-2 draw with Newcastle last weekend, as Gary O'Neill's side continue on what has been a pretty decent run of results in recent weeks for the Midlands side. Intriguing game. A game that on paper Wolves should be winning, because obviously Sheffield United are just so poor right now. They're in the mud. You actually are strongly considering and imagining how far Sheffield United's patience will run with their new manager, whether or not they're going to sack him. I don't think it's probably going to get any better for them if they do, so I'm not sure if sacking him would be the right option or not, but Sheffield United fans may be able to fill me in more on how they see things and how they see the potential manager situation, because obviously when things do go wrong, the manager is instantly having the finger pointed at as the finger of blame. As far as this game goes, though, Wolves have picked up some very good results in recent weeks, and I see that only continuing here, and it's going to be obviously a very favourable fixture for them to pick up another 3 points, which is why I'm going to say that this game will end 2-0 in favour of the away side. Next, we're seeing Crystal Palace's away day at Burnley, as Turf Moor awaits the arrival of Roy Hodgson's side. Vincent Kompany against Roy Hodgson. Burnley against Crystal Palace for your Saturday afternoon viewing. Interesting game, this one. Both of these sides coming into this game off the back of 2-1 losses. Palace obviously lost to Tottenham, whilst Burnley lost to Bournemouth. Big game for both of these sides to get back to winning ways here. Both teams will sort of fancy their chances, I guess, although Palace will obviously be the clearer favourites out of the two, in my opinion. That's not to write off Burnley completely, but they just don't seem to have anyone to stick the ball into the back of the net. And whilst Palace have been leaking goals in the past couple of results, 9 times out of 10 their defence is strong enough to withstand the kind of attacks that these kind of oppositions possess. So with that being said, I'm going to go with a victory for Crystal Palace. I'm going to say that they come out of this game as 1-0 winners. Next, we're at Goodison Park. It is Everton against Brighton, and this one is a very intriguing game to say the least. Everton picked up a very good win, and a big win at that, last weekend when they beat West Ham by 1-0, whilst Brighton drew 1-1 with Fulham last Sunday. I say it's an intriguing game because Everton have picked up points in the games that you probably wouldn't have expected them to pick up this season. Brighton haven't completely been at the races so far this campaign, but of course you can always tell that they've got that kind of performance in them where they can put anybody to the sword if their game is on point. I say it's intriguing because this could very well be one of those banana skin fixtures of the weekend. This could very well be an Everton picking up the 3 points maybe out of the blue, out of nowhere, if Brighton aren't careful. Of course, the favourites are Brighton. A draw certainly isn't out of the realms of possibility, but I've got to go with the overall contender. I've got to go with the favourites. I've got to say that Brighton win. But I'm just warning you that this may not be all that it seems, and Everton could get an unlikely and obviously kind of a just an unlikely victory, I guess you could say. But I am going to go with the overall favourites. I am going to go with Brighton. I'm going to go with the Seagulls to win, pick up the 3 points, and the Zerbi side are going to come out of this one as 2-1 winners. For your Saturday evening viewing, it's an absolute cracking match, this one, at St James's Park. It is Newcastle against Arsenal. Huge game for both of these sides. A big test for both of these sides. You've got a Newcastle side coming into this game off the back of a 2-2 draw with Wolves. You've got an Arsenal side coming into this game still unbeaten this season, and with a 5-0 victory against Sheffield United under their belts. This game is going to be a belter for your Saturday evening viewing. Massive game. Intriguing game. Newcastle haven't quite been fully at full capacity this season, of course. They've had a few off-the-pitch issues as well. They're going to be missing, obviously, Sandro Tonali. They're going to be missing Alexander Isak. 2 key players for them, I'm sure. But they still have the capabilities of beating this Arsenal side. This Arsenal side aren't impenetrable. They aren't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, despite obviously their unbeaten start to the season. There has been times where teams have proven that you can get at them. Their squad is not seemingly at full capacity, not seemingly at its best. But whilst Arsenal still have issues in certain positions, and you do have question marks over particularly the attacking third of Arsenal, they still are a threat. They are still strong. They still have the likes of Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Martinelli. Eddie Nketiah got a hat-trick last week. I know that I claim he's not that good, or not good enough to be an Arsenal player, and some fans seem to agree with that kind of statement. But he could still be a useful attacker in this situation. Gabriel Jesus, of course, as well, is in the mix, as well as Martin Odegaard. There are players there that obviously Arsenal can rely on in these situations. Now, whilst Arsenal do have those players, Newcastle are at home. It's going to be an awkward game for Arsenal with obviously the Geordies at home. So I'm very much looking forward to what could be a very close and very interesting game ahead. As far as a result goes and a prediction, look, this one could end any which way. This one definitely could end any which way. We have seen Arsenal struggle in these big games in recent times. The North London derby, they struggled. The game against Chelsea, they struggled. I'm going to say that Newcastle give them a very good game here, and that's why I'm going to go with a draw. I'm not entirely confident by that prediction, but I'm going to go with a draw, and I'm going to say that this game will end 2-2 come the final whistle. Next, we move on to Sunday's games, and first up, we've got a huge clash at the City Ground as Nottingham Forest take on Aston Villa. Big game, this one. Forest obviously coming into this game on the back of a 3-0 defeat at the hands of Liverpool last week, whilst Aston Villa are on a pretty decent run right now and are looking very, very good indeed, as Unai Emery's side coming into this game off the back of a 3-1 victory over Luton, in which the only way that Luton got their goal last week was through the horrendous mistake Villa made. But yes, there's only one winner in my opinion, and as much as I don't like to discount anyone from a football game, as much as I like to say that anything can happen in the Premier League, with the way that both of these teams are playing right now, with a bit of a poor run that Forest are in right now, and the amazing run that Villa are in, and they've got obviously aspirations to climb even higher than what they are currently right now within the top 5. For me, it's Villa all the way. For me, this has got a Villa win written all over it, as unfortunately as it is for Nottingham Forest. They are playing very well, playing some good football. And yeah, I can't see any other result than a Villa win, unfortunately, for the Reds. So it's got to be a Villa win. Unai Emery's side come out of this with the 3 points, and I'm going to say that this game ends 3-1. 3-1 in favour of Unai Emery's side. There, that's all she wrote. The penultimate game on this list sees Luton Town host Liverpool at Kenilworth Road. A huge game for the Hatters as they welcome one of the Premier League's big boys to Kenilworth Road. Big game. A game that obviously Luton Town come into not in the best of form. They lost 3-1 to Aston Villa last weekend, whilst Liverpool are in fine form themselves. Picked up a couple of good results in recent weeks, and last weekend they beat Nottingham Forest pretty comfortably by 3-0. Look, this has all the makings of a potential banana skin. Of course it does. If Liverpool take this lightly, if Liverpool are not at the races, particularly in what is going to be a very hostile and very awkward ground, in which is going to be very loud and which is going to be right behind the home team, it could potentially be a banana skin for the Hatters for the Reds in this one against the Hatters. But in saying that, this should be one of the more favourable results to predict this weekend. This should be going in Liverpool's favour, and it should be a pretty comfortable result for Jurgen Klopp's side in saying all of that. Mohamed Salah is in incredible, inspired form. Dominic Szoboszlai continues to go from strength to strength. Ryan Gravenberch looks good with each and every passing game that goes by for him. Diogo Jota's in good form. Darwin Núñez especially is in the form of his Liverpool career at the very least right now, and is only getting better and better and stronger with each and every single time he enters a football pitch. So with all that being said, and with all due respect to Luton Town, this should be a Liverpool win. I'm praying it is. I'm hoping it is. I'm hoping we're not going to be humiliated this weekend against Luton. But again, you can't take it all for granted. You've got to respect Luton. You've got to respect the home crowd, the awkward stadium that it's going to be because of the hostile environment. And you've got to hope that this isn't going to be a banana skin for the Reds. Prediction: 3-0 to Liverpool. I know I gave that whole speech about how we should be respectful and everything, but this should be a comfortable win for Liverpool. If it isn't, it's humiliating. But yes, fingers crossed, Liverpool get the job done. Salah and Núñez to continue their good goal-scoring output and contributions in this game. And finally, to round out match day 11 of the new Premier League season, the biggest game of this weekend, the main event of this round of Premier League fixtures, it comes from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It is Tottenham, unbeaten, top of the table Tottenham, against Chelsea. A big London derby, a fierce rivalry is set to write a new chapter in its history, and that all unfolds before our very eyes on Monday night. Cannot wait for this one. Very intriguing game ahead indeed. Tottenham come into this game, like I say, off the back of a 2-1 victory against Crystal Palace. They are still unbeaten this season. They are 2 points clear at the top of the table at the time of recording. Chelsea, on the other hand, have floundered. They thought they were hitting a good run of form until they went to Brentford last week and ultimately stumbled by losing 2-0 against the Bees there. Massive game. Massive game. And if there's going to be one game that Chelsea fans need their players to turn up for, it's this one. They don't like seeing Tottenham top of the table as it is. They especially wouldn't like to see them beat Chelsea in this game, regardless of whether Tottenham are at home or not. It's a big test for Tottenham. Can they maintain their nerve? Can they keep their composure in this game? We know that Chelsea are a good footballing side until it comes to putting the ball into the back of the net, and then they somewhat struggle. That was evident last week against Brentford when they had a few decent opportunities but couldn't find the back of the net, and ultimately it was the quality of finishing on Brentford's side that obviously paid the price for the Blues. For Tottenham, I don't think they've been as convincing in recent games, but they are still a very strong side. They are still a very capable side. And I think against a Chelsea side that are going to be looking to go forward and attack more, they obviously could fall into Tottenham's hands. Tottenham may actually prefer a side that is going to come out and try and attack them more in this Chelsea side, and it could leave some gaps open at the back for the likes of James Maddison and Heung-min Son in particular to exploit and to obviously try and get the goals that are going to win Tottenham this game. And that is all without even mentioning the underlying narrative of this game. Maurizio Pochettino returns to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and obviously is going to be interesting to see how he is welcomed back by the Tottenham faithful. A lot of story, a lot to unpack during this, and a lot to be intrigued by in terms of a game that should be a very interesting and very open game of football, you would imagine, between these two sides, which could make for a very, very interesting viewing. Cannot wait for this one. As far as the score prediction goes, look, Chelsea have turned up in the big games this season. They turned up against Liverpool on the opening day. They turned up against Arsenal when it was 2-2. I'm going to say they turn up here as well. Whether or not they can stick the ball into the back of the net is another story. But I think that given how open Tottenham can be, how open Chelsea can be, I reckon that this game will end in a draw. It could go any which way. If I am leaning towards a favourite to win this game, I am going to be slightly leaning towards Tottenham because I think they have the better finisher, or finishers, should I say, in Maddison and Son. Better match winners, better finishers. So I will be leaning more towards that way. But I do think that Chelsea probably can turn up for this game in what is a huge rivalry, a huge game, and one that their fans will be expecting this team to turn up for. So that's why I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to say that this game will end 2-2 come the final whistle. And there you have it. Those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, but most of all, of course, predictions of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of all the games that are coming up this weekend in another round of exciting and intriguing Premier League fixtures? Leave your thoughts, your comments, opinions, but most of all, of course, leave your predictions down below for each and every single game to happen this weekend in the Premier League. Would love to hear from you all. Would love to read all of your comments and your predictions. I'm sure it'll make for interesting and great reading. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new and want to see more content like this. Both things always and greatly appreciated. And of course, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Premier League prediction show. And I'll see you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. Enjoy the Premier League fixtures coming up this weekend, and I will see you all again very soon. Take care. Speak to you again soon.